We're live from New Delhi, watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next 30 minutes. President Draupadi Murmu hosted a banquet for EU leaders at Rashtrapati Bhavan on Tuesday, expressed confidence in India-EU free trade agreement. Budget session of Indian Parliament to commence today. President Murmu to address joint sitting of members of both houses. US President Trump said he would de-escalate a little bit in Minneapolis after criticism over the fatal shootings of 2 civilians. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman calls Iranian President Pezeshkian, assures the Gulf Kingdom will not allow its territory to be used for any military actions against Iran. And in sports, India I series dominance in 4th T20 International against New Zealand in Visakhapatnam. And on to the top story this hour. President Draupadi Murmu hosted a banquet in the honor of President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, and President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, at Rashtrapati Bhavan on Tuesday. The President said that India and Europe are connected not only by contemporary interest, but also by shared values such as democracy, pluralism, and an open market economy. Well, she expressed confidence that the India-EU free trade agreement will bring significant positive changes to the lives of our people. President Murmu said the India-EU security and defence partnership concluded during this visit will open new opportunities for the defence industries. The President said that India is keen to further strengthen cooperation with the EU in the field of clean energy, climate, finance and sustainable technologies. Several dignitaries, including Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, also attended the banquet hosted by the President. And earlier, India and European Union on Tuesday exchanged the historic free trade agreement. The deal was concluded following India-EU summit talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi, President of the European Council Antonio Costa, and President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen in New Delhi. Well, the trade pact, which has been described by both the sides as the mother of all trade deals, will open up the European markets for Indian labour-intensive goods comprising textiles and footwear. At the same time, it will make imported European items cheaper in India by reducing duties, including luxury cars, wines, and medicines. Besides, the Indian European Union also exchanged several agreements in the fields of security, defence, partnership, mobility, disaster risk management, and green hydrogen. Also addressing a joint press conference with 2 European leaders after the talks, the Prime Minister said inking of the biggest free trade deal between India and 27-nation European Union will deepen economic ties, create jobs, bolster global supply chains and strengthen the partnership between 2 sides for a prosperous future. And beyond a conventional trade deal, India-EU free trade agreement concluded on Tuesday represents a comprehensive partnership with strategic dimensions and is one of the most consequential FTA. Well, India-EU trade deal pact covers conventional areas such as trade in goods, services, trade remedies, rules of origin, customs and trade facilitation, as well as emerging areas such as SMEs and digital trade, amongst others. Let's take a look.
Unlocking massive growth potential. Opportunities for 2 billion people. Comprising 25% of global GDP. unprecedented market access.
A historic milestone was announced at the 16th India EU Summit on Tuesday by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen in New Delhi. The leaders announced the conclusion of the India European Union Free Trade Agreement. India stands poised to leverage this FTA to create jobs, spur innovation, unlock opportunities across sectors, and enhance its competitiveness on the global stage. Let's have a look at some of them. India has secured unprecedented market access for more than 99% of Indian exports by trade value to the EU. That also bolsters the Make in India initiative. India EU FTA gives a decisive boost to its labor intensive sectors such as textiles, apparel, leather, footwear, marine products, gems and jewelry, handicrafts, engineering goods, and automobiles, bringing down tariffs up to 10% on almost 33 billion US dollars of exports to zero on entry into force of the agreement. On automobiles, calibrated and carefully crafted quota-based auto liberalization package will not only allow EU automakers to introduce their models in India in higher price brands, but also open the possibilities for Make in India and exports from India in future. Indian consumers to benefit from high-tech products and greater competition. The reciprocal market access in EU market will also open up opportunities for India-made automobiles to access EU market. India's agricultural and processed food sectors are poised for a transformative boost under the India EU FTA, creating a level playing field for Indian farmers and agrarian enterprises. Key commodities such as tea, coffee, spices, fresh fruits and vegetables, and processed foods will gain enhanced competitiveness, strengthening rural livelihoods, promoting inclusive growth, and reinforcing India's position as a trusted global supplier. India has prudently safeguarded sensitive sectors, including dairy, cereals, poultry, soy meal, certain fruits and vegetables, balancing export growth with domestic priorities. Services being dominant and faster growing part of both economies will trade more in future. Focus on digitally delivered services, ease of mobility will provide boost to India's services exports. India's predictable access to EU's 144 subsectors will provide boost to Indian service providers and enable them to provide competitive world-class Indian services to EU's consumers. On mobility, the India EU FTA provides a facilitative and predictable framework for business mobility covering short-term, temporary, and business travel in both directions. These enable professionals to travel between the two economies to provide services under different scenarios. India also secured a framework to constructively engage on social security arrangements over a 5 year horizon, together with framework supporting student mobility and post study work opportunities. India EU trade deal, along with India's FTA with the UK and the EFTA, effectively opens up the entire European market for Indian businesses, exporters, and entrepreneurs. Fuzail Ahmed reports for TT India.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also laid out a sharp economic and strategic roadmap at the India-EU Business Forum held on the sidelines of the India-EU Summit and co-chaired with European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. Pitching the proposed free trade agreement as a growth multiplier, the Prime Minister underlined opportunities for trade, jobs and resilient supply chains between India and the European Union. Here's more in this report.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired the India-EU Business Forum along with President of the European Commission Ursula von der Leyen in New Delhi on Tuesday. Addressing global business leaders, the Prime Minister said that the proposed India-EU Free Trade Agreement will unlock seamless access to European markets for India's labor-intensive sectors.
इससे भारत के लेबर इंटेंसिव उत्पादों को यूरोपियन यूनियन मार्केट में इजी एक्सेस मिलेगा। इसमें विशेष तौर पर टेक्सटाइल, जेम्स एंड ज्वेलरी, ऑटो पार्ट्स और इंजीनियरिंग गुड्स शामिल हैं। फ्रूट्स, वेजिटेबल्स, प्रोसेस्ड फूड और मरीन प्रोडक्ट उसमें नए अवसर बनेंगे। इसका सीधा लाभ हमारे किसानों को, हमारे मछुआरों को मिलेगा। हमारे सर्विस सेक्टर को भी इससे फायदा होगा।
Prime Minister Modi noted that trade, technology, and critical minerals are increasingly being weaponized globally, calling for India and the EU to jointly de-risk supply chains and reduce external dependencies.
आज विश्व में व्यापार, टेक्नोलॉजी और क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स को वेपनाइज किया जा रहा है। हमें साथ मिलकर अपनी निर्भरताओं को डी रिस्क करने की आवश्यकता है।
The India-EU Business Forum brought together three leaders from both sides, with discussions underscoring the growing depth and strategic maturity of the India-EU economic partnership across sectors.
The Business Forum comes at a timely moment, straight in the wake of the completion of negotiations of the India-EU FTA, because we will need the businesses on the two sides to quickly translate the intention of the FTA into concrete outcomes.
The India-EU Business Forum signaled a shift toward a more integrated and de-risked economic partnership, positioning India and the EU as trusted partners in trade, technology, and global supply chains. Bureau Report, DD India.
And moving on, the budget session of Indian Parliament will commence on Wednesday with the address of President Draupadi Murmu to the joint sitting of members of both the houses. Well, the first phase is scheduled from January 28 to February 13th, while the second phase will run from March 9th to April 2nd. The session will feature 30 sittings, with the Union Budget 2026-27 being presented on February 1st in the lower house. Earlier, the government on Tuesday convened an all-party meeting and appealed for cooperation for smooth functioning of both the houses of parliament. Speaking to the media after the meeting, the Parliamentary Affairs Minister said the first part of the budget session will have motion of thanks on President's address. Later discussion on budget will be held in both the houses. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address the annual NCC PM rally on Wednesday at the Karyappa Parade Ground in New Delhi. The theme of this year's rally is Rashtra Pratham Kartavya Nishtha Yuva. In a statement, the Prime Minister's office said that this rally reflects the spirit of duty, discipline, and national commitment among India's youth. Also, the NCC PM rally will mark the grand culmination of the month-long NCC Republic Day Camp 2026. It witnessed the participation of 2,406 NCC cadets from across the country, including 898 girl cadets. The rally will also see the participation of 207 youth and officers from 21 foreign countries. On the occasion, a vibrant cultural program will be presented by NCC cadets, members of Rashtriya Rangshala National Service Scheme, showcasing their role in nation building, social service, and character development. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Russian drone strike hits passenger train in Ukraine. Zelensky calls it terrorism. The nomination for the 79th British Academy Film Awards were announced in London, spotlighting top films of the year. And India dominates Zimbabwe by 205 runs in Under-19 World Cup Super Sixes opener.
Union Budget 2026-27 is round the corner and the Indian industry has a wish list.
4 large buckets that we have looked at are essentially self-reliance. Support that could be provided to the exports is the second one. The continuity of the factor market reforms, ease of doing business again, something which is being pursued by the government but accelerated further.
On MSMEs, would you recommend any greater allocation considering more than 45% to Indian exports?
This whole ease of doing business is largely aimed at how we can give a little more room for MSMEs to breathe and to be able to operate more easily. There is a talent which is sitting within the private sector, which is what need to be really combined.
Coming to the budget income tax slabs, has FICCI or Indian industry recommended any sort of tweaking there?
So I think a lot has been done last year. Income tax slabs as well as the GST slabs have been significantly rationalized, and I think it's neat to now see how that converts into greater demand and hence into greater capital formation.
Welcome back. You're watching TD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khuranan. Moving on, demonstrators gathered inside the Minnesota state capitol to protest the deployment of federal agents carrying out the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, with demonstrators urging that officials should handle immigration without harming the community. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump said he would de-escalate a little bit in Minneapolis after the fatal shootings of 2 civilians sparked national outrage. Well, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, met city and state officials as the administration attempted damage control following the killing of 37-year-old nurse Alex Pretty. Trump acknowledged that Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bovino, now expected to leave Minneapolis, may have worsened tensions. Calls for independent investigations and a reduction of federal forces have grown, while Democrats warn the violence betrays core American values. Protest and public criticism continue to mount as concern spreads nationwide.
Tom Homan, as you know, is in Minnesota now. He's meeting with the governor and he's meeting with the mayor, I think, later. And I hear that's all going very well. Well, you know, we're doing a big investigation. I want to see the investigation. I'm going to be watching over it. I want a very honorable and honest investigation. I have to see it myself.
And the United States on Tuesday announced a major multi-day Air Force exercise in the West Asia. The announcement came a day after the U.S. military said the Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group had arrived in the West Asia, boosting American firepower in the region. According to the U.S. Air Force component of Central Command, the exercise will demonstrate the ability to deploy, disperse, and sustain combat air power across the West Asia. No date or exact location for the exercise were released. Also, a Russian drone strike hit a passenger train in Ukraine's northeastern region, killing 5 people, according to the prosecutors. The attack set several train carriages on fire near a village, with visuals showing burning coaches along a snow-covered railway line. Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky denounced the strike as an act of terrorism and called for intensified pressure on Moscow. The train strike came hours after overnight drone attacks on the southern city of Odessa, where 3 people were killed and at least 25 others were wounded. Kharkiv city's mayor informed around 40% of households were left without electricity following combined missile and drone strikes. And news from the world of entertainment now. The nominations for the 79th British Academy Film Awards, or the BAFTAs, were announced in London on Tuesday amidst the ongoing award season to honour the best of cinema of 2025. Well, the offbeat thriller One Battle After Another earned 14 nominations, including for Best Film, while vampire-infused horror Sinners followed closely with 13 nods. Both films also dominate the Oscars shortlist, with Sinners taking a record 16 nominations and One Battle After Another earning 30 nods. Other contenders for Best Film include Hamnet, Marty Supreme, and the Norwegian dramedy Sentimental Value. BAFTA CEO Jane Michelip praised this year's selection for bold storytelling and unique perspectives, highlighting a mix of intense political dramas and intimate personal films. And in other news, Nepal organized a conference on Tuesday on decarbonizing the economy to mark the International Clean Energy Day. During the conference, government officials said they are working to strengthen laws and policies to expand the use of green energy and suggested arrangements needed to achieve the national target of net zero carbon emission by 2045. Nepal still relies heavily on imported fuel, accounting for about 60% of total energy consumption. Authorities also called for more private sector involvement, citing available financing for green investment. Well, the officials also said that Nepal's renewable energy production is increasing, with new solar plants charging stations and solar-powered pumps planned. And on to some sports news now. India and New Zealand gear up for the 4th T20 International in Visakhapatnam, with the host aiming to extend their dominance after taking a strong lead in the series. Sanju Samson and Abhishek Sharma's form at the top will be crucial, while Jasprit Bumrah and continue to spearhead the bowling attack. New Zealand, led by Mitchell Santner, will look to bounce back and keep the contest alive. With the T20 World Cup approaching, both sides see this clash as vital preparation. And India crushed Zimbabwe by 205 runs in their opening Super Sixes clash at the Under-19 World Cup in Bulawayo, riding on Vihan Malhotra's unbeaten century in 50s from Abhigyan Kundu and Vaibhav Suryavanshi. India piled up 353 before bowling Zimbabwe out for 148 with 12.2 overs left. R.S. Ambrish and debutant Uddhav Mohan shared 5 wickets, while skipper Ayush Matre claimed 3 late strikes as Zimbabwe collapsed, losing their last 6 wickets for just 6 runs. Earlier, Suryavanshi's 24-ball 50 and Malhotra's composed ton set the tone, supported by Kundu's fluent 61. India's dominance underlined their title credentials as Zimbabwe faltered despite Chivola's fighting half-century. And India's Ashmita Chaliha stormed into the women's single main draw at the Thailand Masters Super 300 in Bangkok with 2 hard-fought qualification wins on Tuesday. Well, the 26-year-old from Guwahati, part of India's goal-winning squad at the 2024 Asia Team Championships, defeated Chinese Taipei's Hung Hee-ting 21-15, 12-21, 21-12 in 42 minutes before overcoming Korea's Kim Joo-yeon 21-11, 10-21, 21-16 in 45 minutes. While Chaliha will now face compatriot Devika Sehag in the main draw. Elsewhere, Shreya Lele, M. Jaglan and L. Jaglan, P. Krishnamurti Roy and S. Prateek K, and the women double pair Ashwani Bhatt and Shikha Gautam all bowed out in qualification matches. And in tennis, world number 1 Carlos Alcaraz swept into his maiden Australian Open semi-final and set up a clash with Alexander Zverev. The 22-year-old brushed aside home hope Alexander de Minaur 7-5, 6-2, 6-1, and he's yet to drop a set. The Australian Open is the only Grand Slam that Alcaraz has not won. Should he beat Zverev and then win Sunday's final, he would surpass compatriot and legend Rafael Nadal as the youngest man to win all 4 majors. Nadal was 24 when he did it. And Alina Svitolina stormed into her first Australian Open semi-final with a commanding win over Coco Gauff in just 59 minutes on Rod Laver Arena. The Ukrainian 12th seed on a 10-match winning streak after her Auckland triumph punished Gauff's serve with 5 double faults and 4 breaks. At 31, Svitolina keeps alive a dream of a maiden Grand Slam title and a return to the world's top 10 after maternity leave. Gauff, chasing her 3rd major, struggled to find rhythm despite restringing rackets under the closed roof. Svitolina now faces top seed Aryna Sabalenka in a blockbuster semi-final. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Nipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.